Ladies and gentlemen, I'm doing an update of the situation in Philadelphia when, Walter Wallace Jr. was shot and killed by Philadelphia police. Now, the media, excuse me real quick. Sorry, guys. The media has said that one of the family members was calling the police. Well, there's reports that that wasn't true because, that they called the ambulance that deals with mental health patients. So basically, they didn't call the police. And this is interesting, and I'm going to read this article in a second, but it shows you, ladies and gentlemen, that the media has lied, saying that one of the family members called the police, tried to help, on Walter Wallace Jr., but it turns out that they didn't call the police. They called the ambulance to get help for Walter Wallace Jr. So this article is from USA 9 in D.C. So it says that the family of a black man killed by a Philadelphia police officer in a shooting caught on video had called for an ambulance to get him help with mental health crisis, not the police intervention, the lawyer said Tuesday. Police said Walter Wallace Jr., 27, was wielding a knife and ignored orders to drop the weapon before officers fired shots Monday afternoon. But his parents said Tuesday night that officers knew their son was in a mental health crisis because they had been to the family house 3 times on Monday. And I'm going to stop you right there. So let me get this straight. And ladies and gentlemen, I want you to listen to this. So the family of Walter Wallace Jr., they knew that he had a mental crisis. So they called 911 for an ambulance, right? To help dealing with this mental health crisis. So instead, police showed up. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. Why? Why they show up on 3 times already? That's pretty odd. So the officers knew that Walter Wallace had a mental health problem and they killed him anyway? Unbelievable. Let's continue, y'all. It says Kathy Wallace, his mother, said one of the times they stood there and laughed at us. So in other words, the 3 times the police showed up at their house and they knew that Walter Wallace had a mental health issue. One of the officers is laughing at the family. And then all of a sudden, really, it shows you that the Philadelphia police is up to no good anyway, because why you have to show up 3 times in their home knowing that they didn't call for y'all, they only called for an ambulance. Let me continue reading this article, y'all. It says the Wallace family's attorney, Shaka Johnson, said the man's wife, Dominique Wallace, is pregnant and is scheduled to have labor induced Wednesday. Johnson said Wallace had 9 children. 2 briefly spoke at a news conference late Tuesday, along with Walter Wallace's mother and father. When you come to a scene where somebody is in a mental crisis and the only tool you have to deal with is a gun, where are the proper tools for the job? Johnson said, arguing that the Philadelphia police officers are not properly trained to handle mental health crisis. Johnson said Wallace's brother had called 911 to request medical assistance and ambulance. And I'm going to stop you right there. See, they called 911, y'all. But they didn't call 911 for no damn police. They called 911 for a medical assistance dealing with people that suffer mental health problems. That's why they called the ambulance in the first place. They had no idea that the police will arrive 3 times in front of their house. That's really odd, isn't it? When a family member had to call 911, but then they didn't realize 3 officers going to show up, and then one of the officers knew that he had a medical condition or a mental health condition, they still want to show up anyway? This is crazy, y'all. So it says about 500 people had gathered at a West Philadelphia park Tuesday night and began marching through the neighborhood chanting There were no sporadic reports of arrests in other areas of the city Tuesday night around 9 p.m. Video showed people streaming into stores and stealing goods as they left on the opposite side of the city from where Wallace was shot. The Philadelphia Office of Emergency Management tweeted around 9:30 p.m. Tuesday, cautioning residents in eastern Philadelphia to remain indoors. Philadelphia officials had anticipated a second night of unrest Tuesday after Philadelphia police arrested more than 90 people during protests and unrest that began Monday and spread into the early morning hours of Tuesday, sometimes turning into a violent confrontation with police. Police were stationing extra officers on business corridors in western Philadelphia and elsewhere in preparation. So there's someone tweeted and said, OTG West Philly. And I'm going to continue reading this. It says, the Pennsylvania National Guard spokesperson told the Philadelphia Inquirer early Tuesday that several hundred guardsmen were expected to arrive in the city within the 24 to 48 hours. So I'm going to stop you right there again. So the governor, to me, sounded like that he called the National Guard to maintain order in the city of brotherly love. But yet, the officers that killed Walter Wallace Jr. laughed at the family member, knowing that Walter Wallace Jr. had a mental breakdown or having mental problems. And all of a sudden, you know, he had a knife, but you killed him anyway because you don't know how to properly train how to deal with a mental patient. And then yet you heard what they said, y'all, that the family members didn't call the police. They only called for an ambulance or a medical assistant to help, you know, help Walter Wallace. They help him with that condition. Let's continue, y'all. Police had previously said 30 officers were injured in the Monday night unrest, most of them hit with throwing objects with bricks. One officer was still hospitalized Tuesday with a broken leg after being purposely run over by a pickup truck, police said. Throughout the day, Tuesday, state and local officials called for transparency and a thorough investigation, including the release of body camera footage from the two officers who fired their weapons. Police Commissioner Daniel Outlaw said at a news conference Tuesday that she was still reviewing when and what information will be released to the public. The officers had not been interviewed as of Tuesday afternoon, she said. Neither had a taser or similar device at the time of the shooting. Outlaw said, noting the department had previously asked for funding to equip more officers with those devices. I'm going to stop you right there again. So why didn't they even release the body cameras as they said? But yet Daniel Outlaw, the commissioner, said they still reviewing the case. They should have been reviewing the case after that incident happened. Lord Jesus. Wow. And it continues, says, Outlaw said the officer's name and other identifying information, including their race, will be withheld. Of course they would do that because this is what they do, y'all. They want to protect officers. They're not going to release the names or what race they are. But ladies and gentlemen, we already know what race they are because I saw the damn video. There are two white police officers that shot Walter Wallace. Two white police officers. But yet the Philadelphia police said we're not going to identify what race or what name because they want to protect their own. They want to protect the officers. This is what police do. Every time something went wrong, they want to protect them. They want to protect their identity so that people will find out where they live at and just protest in front of their homes. That's what they do. So it says, they says that Outlaw said the officer's name and other identifying information, including their race, will be withheld until the department can be sure releasing the information will not pose a threat to their safety. The officers were taken off street duty during the investigation. Police officials said they could not confirm what information had been given to the responding officers, whether they were told about a possible mental illness or how many calls they had received for help at Wallace's address Monday. Chief Police Inspector Frank Venor confirmed that police had received a call before the fatal encounter Monday about a man screaming and saying that he was armed with a knife. The two officers each fired at least 7 rounds at least 14 total shots, but Venor could not say how many times Wallace, 27, was struck. Wallace's father, Walter Wallace Sr., said Tuesday night that he is haunted by the way his son was butchered. It's in my mind. I can't even sleep at night. I can't even close my eyes, he said. In video filmed by a bystander and posted on social media, officers yelled for Wallace to drop a knife. In the video, Wallace's mother and at least one man followed Wallace, trying to get him to listen to the officers as he briskly walked across the street and between cars. Wallace advanced towards the officer, who then fired several times, said police spokesperson Officer Tanya Little. Wallace's mother screams and throws something at an officer after her son is shot and falls to the ground. The video does not make it clear whether he was in fact holding a knife, but witnesses say he was. Police would not confirm any details about the weapon Wallace was alleged to be holding Tuesday, saying it is still part of the open investigation. Wallace was hit in the shoulder and chest, Little said. One officer drove him to the hospital where he was pronounced dead a short time later, she said. During Monday's unrest, police cars and dumpsters were set on fire as officers struggled to contain the crowds. More than a dozen officers, many with batons in hand, formed a line as they ran down 52nd Street, dispersing most of the crowd. In at least one video posted to social media, an officer can be seen appearing to arrest a young black woman. A white officer wrestles the woman to the ground, lying in his back against her, and punches her repeatedly. Wow, that's the way how you have to treat a female suspect or a female protester? Okay. A request for comment or details about the incident was not returned by police Tuesday. A district attorney's office spokesperson urged people with concerns about misconduct or crime during the protest to report those issues to the office special investigators unit. The 52nd Street corridor was also the site of protests against police brutality at the end of May after George Floyd was killed by Minneapolis police. Those protests have been the subject of city council's hearings, with protesters describing harsh and unnecessary tactics, including tear gas and projectiles fired by police. And ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of the WUSA 9 article. Ladies and gentlemen, now, you know, police has been called, and reportedly they said that they called the police, but the family member said no, they didn't call the police. Only thing they did was calling the ambulance or medical assistance to help Walter Wallace Jr. with his mental state, with his mental condition. And then one of those officers laughing at the family. Now, why would you laugh at the family knowing that they needed help to try to contain Walter Wallace Jr. and then the officers couldn't even handle stuff like this? That's why they called the ambulance instead of calling the cops. Now, you know, they say they hold the knife, and family members trying to stop, trying to contain Walter Wallace from even going near the police or try to go around it. And then, multiple shots were fired, killed them. But I see stories after stories. I even see videos of white suspects. That's right. White suspects did the exact same thing what Walter Wallace did, have a knife in his hand, but the police didn't do anything. And basically, they didn't do anything to the white suspects because obviously they don't want to protect their own. More than likely, they try to de-escalate the situation. Unfortunately, they didn't do that to this case. And that's why you see riots breaking out in Philadelphia because of this. And again, like I told you on my previous video, y'all, they could have handled it in a different way. They could have de-escalated the situation in a different way. And their videos in Great Britain is training police how to handle a guy with a knife. There's ways to handle guys with a knife, but instead, y'all want to kill him. Y'all, police officers have been trigger happy. So it shows you how the media is lying, ladies and gentlemen. How they said, well, one of the family members called the police to try to handle Walter Wallace Jr., but it turns out that wasn't true, that the family called the ambulance, not the police. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you think about this. Like, click, subscribe, and remember to click the notification bell for all the news and commentary. With that being said, this is Lions Den signing off. Deuces.